Hi everybody, welcome to TalkSport 2's coverage, exclusive coverage and live coverage of the third test match in Grenada. It's the fourth day and England are in disarray. Only 10 runs ahead, 8 wickets down, and you'd say it's over bar the shouting. So the focus of attention is very much on the England captain Joe Root, as it was after the Ashes. It's been an extremely difficult time for a much admired and well-liked man, an outstanding batsman, one of the very best on this planet, but a captain who is under enormous pressure. It's a captaincy that began back in 2017. Indeed, his first test match was against South Africa in the July of that month. It's now run until March 22, and it's a story that's ebbed and flowed.
Every kid dreams of being England captain one day, and it's been a very special couple of days, and very proud.
Well, a special time, a terrific time. England's captain is what dreams are made of. Fabulous time. Joe Root, 100.
Wonderful way to start your era as captain.
Oh, an edge! There it is! Look at the Aussies! That's the little urn. It's back with the Australians.
I think one of the most frustrating things is that we haven't been blown away.
Up goes the finger, and that is a fitting end. England have won this test match by 60 runs and wrap up the series 3-1.
I'm pretty happy with the way things have gone and, my position as captain.
The news from Pallekele is that Joe Root's team have beaten Sri Lanka by 57 runs. They've taken the series.
Yeah, I'm in a good place right now. It's been a good tour.
Ben Stokes facing Cummins, cuts away, and he takes the 4 that wins the game for England.
Joel Wilson taps his shoulders, raises his finger, and England have won the series 3-1. They win by 191 runs.
As I keep saying, we're not the finished article by any means.
Oh, well bowled. Yes, really well bowled. A little nick from Jasprit Bumrah, and the test match is over. England win.
Some people predicting 4-0 this series to India, but England have won the first test by 227 runs.
Fine rearguard innings from Lawrence, but England have been bowled out for just 135. India win by an innings and 25 runs to wrap up the series by 3 test matches to 1.
As an England captain, as any captain of any team, you always want your best players available all of the time, but it doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Catch. And that'll do nicely for England. They square the series.
I mean, to see him go on and become England's most successful captain of all those test wins was superb yesterday. It's something I've been looking forward to seeing for a while.
Yeah, I'd love the opportunity to take this team forward and to turn things round. If that decision's taken out of my hands, then so be it, but I'd love the opportunity to carry that forward.
This is edged and caught at third slip by Jason Holder. Overton goes fishing. England lose their 8th, and another England batter gets himself out.
I think the questions Joe will be asking himself is, do I want this anymore? Do I need this anymore? I've given it a good go, but I might not be the man for the job.
Okay, interesting to listen to that short summary of Root's career in charge of the England side, the ups and the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows, the ups and the lows. I'm reinventing colloquialism. Matt Pryor is with me. Matt, your words there, Joe Root will be asking himself, does he want this anymore? What if the answer's yes?
You've thrown me in first question. I don't know. I don't think the answer's going to be yes.
What if the answer's yes?
Well, if the answer's yes, then the ECB have made a slight rod for their back because they've supported Joe massively after the Ashes. Really, once you've made the decision to keep Joe Root on as captain after that Ashes performance, you're in for the long haul. You can't, I don't think, then boot him out after one series where you've got this reset, you've left your 2 best bowlers at home, you go away and lose, batsmen have batted poorly. Everyone will look at this series, and of course the captain will take responsibility and is accountable. But this is not just a Joe Root issue. Joe does not have the players around him. The players themselves, the squad, is not strong enough. The bowlers are not good enough. The batters are not good enough. You can have the best Mike Brearley could be out there. I don't think we're winning the series. That's so. Are we going to put that on Joe Root? I don't think we can.
With Mike Brearley as captain, you don't think England are beating West Indies?
No, they don't have the players. They don't have the players. You need good captain. Look at the team Brearley captained. Look at the teams that have been successful over the years. The captains have taken plaudits, and rightly so, but they've had outstanding players. Who in this England team right now is genuinely world class in Test cricket? Root, Stokes, Bairstow, potentially. That's it.
It's going to take me a bit of time to digest that Brearley analogy, because I'm not sure I agree with you. Okay, it's your former captain, a man you think a great deal of, Andrew Strauss, who made the decision to support Root, coming back in as interim director of cricket. Root's average, his career performances hasn't changed dramatically. As a player, he's 4,500 runs at 52. And as captain, he's 5,200 runs at 46. So it's not wildly different. And he might have played on more difficult pitches, for example, in the period that he's been captain. They've won a lot of test matches under him, the most, but they've lost the most as well, which is an interesting juxtaposition. Surely Strauss only backed him immediately. He wasn't saying you've got the job for as long as you want it.
No, but when you talk about a reset, there is a connotation with time that goes with the reset. You can't reset in a matter of weeks or a month. That's just never going to happen. So that's why I think that decision to back Joe Root was such a big one, and does come with some time that is given to him, because they're going. Again, when they selected the squad, it was about learning what the players can and can't do in leadership roles, etc., etc. Well, we've certainly learnt that's for sure. But again, I come back to the point. I don't think this loss is purely down to Joe Root as a captain. If pick another guy, who else is going to be the captain? So let's say it's Ben
This is
Stokes.
a slightly different conversation. This conversation is what happens if England lose. And what will happen to Joe Root, even if it's not of his own volition.
Yeah, definitely. So that's why we've gotten to this point. Is if Joe Root doesn't step down, can Strauss get rid of him? I personally think it would be unfair, based on this series, when you've just made the decision to stand by him after the Ashes. And the reason why I think it's unfair is I don't think Joe Root is the reason we've lost the series. I think we've lost the series because the players are not good enough. And if you're going to replace Joe Root, who are you replacing him with? So let's say it would be Ben Stokes, for instance. If Ben Stokes is captain, do we win the series? Does Zach Crawley's technical issues suddenly disappear? Does Dan Lawrence not play across straight ones? Can our bowlers suddenly hit consistently a good area? I don't think so.
Well, I think really good leadership can improve cricketers, can raise their stock, can get more from them, and really good tactical leadership can make more of situations in matches that perhaps Joe hasn't been able to.
And I think that is a very valid point, absolutely. And you mentioned that the man I have a huge amount of respect for, Andrew Strauss, who picked up the team when we were in a terrible, we were 7th in the world at the time, bowled out for 51 in Jamaica, and he set the precedent in the dressing room, along with Andy Flower as coach as well, who would not take anything other than the best performance from any individual, and changed the culture. But that culture was changed over a period of time. That wasn't changed over a month or 3 test matches. And also the difference, I suppose, is the players in the dressing room we knew were capable to go, and you had Peterson and you had Anderson and you had Broad and you had Bell and you had these guys, Flintoff, Harmison. Whereas I don't think, I keep going back to who the players in this dressing room, are they technically, mentally good enough.
Was leaving Broad and Anderson behind a mistake, or has it really revealed that certain players are able to paper over the cracks in English cricket?
Well, hindsight's an exact science. It was a huge risk, and if the ECB have played it pretty well, because they can say, well, the door's not shut for Anderson and Broad. The point is they wouldn't select people wanting them to fail. So although they said the door wasn't shut, they were, I'm sure, very hopeful that Broad and Anderson wouldn't need to be selected, because it means their young bowlers have come in, stepped up and performed brilliantly. When you lose any test series, of course, if you haven't picked your strongest team, it looks like a shocking call. But they wanted to find out about other players in leadership roles, and they have found that out. Now, what do they do about it? That, I think, is the question.
Okay, and so you think Joe will stand aside, do you? After today?
Yeah, and this is just based on watching him from afar. I have a feeling he will say, enough's enough.
Okay. Let's go to the issues of technique and fragile mentalities, really. The team, as you pointed out, look oddly to me ill-equipped. There have been times when Zach Crawley's making runs, or he's in partnership with Joe Root, or Ben Stokes hitting it out of the park, or Bairstow's making 100. And if you got those guys, and you add in Anderson and Broad, and you think, well, we have got quite a lot of world-class cricketers actually, but Anderson and Broad are at completely the wrong end of the spectrum in terms of their ability to play a role in clear planning for the future. They can play a role in the immediate future, but not the long-term future. So, do you think that these technical issues have left England worryingly far behind?
Yeah, I do, and I think the time has come now to stop sugarcoating it and actually be very, very honest. I mean, the slightly alarming thing, and I get where Marcus Trescothick was coming from. There's no point throwing your dressing room under the bus, etc., etc. But he's sort of, his cry for "don't judge us by one game" it is completely inaccurate, because you're not. This has been an issue for years, literally years. England have not scored enough runs for years. And at what point do you go, why are we delivering young England batsmen to the door of the England dressing room, expecting them to walk out at the Gabba, in the West Indies, in India, to score hundreds, average 45 plus, when they don't have sound enough techniques to do it? I just don't think that's right. And again, this is not a go at Crawley or an individual thing. This is something that needs to be looked at countrywide, and it starts with the focus around long-form cricket in counties and development, coaching, the priority that it's given, so that these guys have more of a chance to succeed.
Interesting. Since January 2015, England have given debuts to a lot of cricketers. The top 10 of the batsmen in terms of average, the top 10 average from 30, which is the best, Rory Burns, down to 27, which is Alex Hales. So there are 10 players, Burns, Denley, Lawrence Sibley, Pope, Crawley, Folkes, Stoneman, Milan and Hales, who have made debuts, and none of them has averaged more than 30.3. That's a staggering statistic, really, in days of covered pitches, and many overseas players would say that England is one of the best places in the world to bat, unless it happens to be a very wet summer and you get green tops. But in general, England's a good place to bat. So your home matches, you should understand the conditions. That's an alarming stat, isn't it?
That's a damning stat. Yeah, absolutely, and it sort of proves that point.
And what Root's achieved, averaging 20 more than that. 20 more than the best of it.
Right, exactly.
Incredible, isn't it?
And also, coming back to him as a captain, he's been doing that whilst captaining the team, having to, lead the team, score the runs, watch another collapse. There is a huge amount of pressure on it, but we can go away from that. That stat needs to be spread far and wide, because what more evidence do you need?
That's right. In that period, Root himself, of course, has averaged 46, not 52. But anyway, the point's well made. Okay, West Indies, really good within their limitations. I'd say that if I was involved with cricket in the Caribbean now, I would be quite encouraged by the way that a not especially gifted side has played.
I've been so impressed. And actually, it's the kind of performance that, well, unfortunately against England, but still, it's the kind of performance that you take a lot of heart from. As you say, they're not the most gifted Test cricket team, but performances like, Joshua De Silva innings was just, for me, epitomised what this team is about. Really struggled early on, but fought really hard, didn't just give it away, and also not something that's synonymous with West Indian cricket. You expect the kind of flash in the pan, big shots, 4s and 6s, bowlers running in and bowling short and quick, but actually the more dogged, attritional cricket is not something you relate to West Indian style of the game, but has been very, very necessary in this series on these surfaces. And full credit to them, they've beaten England at that task as well, and very well led by Brathwaite, who has his way of playing, but he's stuck to it. And I think from a leadership perspective, that's been great. Their bowling has been good, and even people like Mayers coming in. It's a simple plan, but he was able to execute it. Brilliant.
Let's think back to Josh De Silva, who played that fantastic innings that has really set the West Indies up for this win. 23-year-old, got to his 100 with a fine shot, having fought so hard for his runs, and then finally the last 20 of them seemed to come easy to him. It was an innings of substance, of character, and because of that, actually, of great charm. And so too was his interview after it had all finished.
I think the emotion said it all. Tears just came to my eyes instantaneously. It's going to come to me now. It means the most, and the whole world. Thanks to God and my parents, everybody supporting me. It means the whole world.
You mentioned your parents there. What has been that sort of relationship with them coming into this moment?
They've backed me 100% through all of the downs, all of the ups. They've always been there. They were in Barbados. I couldn't do it there, but I'm sure they're very happy to watch it on TV and see me do it here.
To score the 100 with Jaden Seals, your club mate, your good friend at the other end.
He told me he has my back, and I backed him 100%. He told me he's going to get me there, and he did, so I can't thank him enough for the role he played.
The number of runs that you added with the lower order, what was the challenge? What was the technique in doing it?
Trusting them. The most I could have done is trust them. Give them 2 balls to face, sometimes even more, and they batted a whole inning. Without them, I couldn't do this, so all credit goes to them. I just played my part.
The moment after getting to the 100 and then walking off, what was going through your mind there with that decision?
I thought I hit it. Just reviewed it just to review, and it's taken. It just happened. I didn't, so I'll take the average. It'll help a lot.
What pleased you most, Josh, about the 100? What pleased you most in terms of stroke play?
Just taking my time, batting balls. I got a lot of stick out there for having a low strike rate, but it didn't matter to me. Just taking my time playing in my game and not getting out of it. When I got the chance to score, I did, and just so happened I got there.
Yeah, that was actually the interview straight after the innings, and they're always good, aren't they? When you, as they say in the business, you doorstep the player and get him when the sweat is still running down his brow. A great guy, he seems to me, and just what West Indies cricket need going forward. In fact, there's a few guys in this team that look like that to me. Just to correct a stat from a moment ago, in that period of those averages I was talking about, Burns is 30 down to Hales is 27, which is since January 2015. Joe Root actually averaged 49.4 over that period, so he was on the verge of 50. Okay, so we're talking about the West Indies camp. Impressed with the batting. We're very impressed with some of these young bowlers too, just as much for their discipline, I think, as anything else. Here's Jaden Seals.
Jaden, thank you very much for your time. If we go back to day 3 and your batting partnership with Joshua De Silva, how do you feel about ushering him to his 100?
I'm very pleased. I obviously told him when I came out there to bat, don't try anything different. Bat the way you're batting right through the game, and I'll get you to 100. I'll do my best to stay out there to get to the 100.
Your batting on its own, how diligently are you working on that aspect?
Every opportunity I get to bat, I'll go in nets and bat as long as possible and try to out as least times as possible. Coming back from, I think, the past few series, Jason was telling me at one point in time I need to get someone to 100, I need to bat almost 60 balls. So being able to do it yesterday and that day was very good for me.
Leading wicket taker for the West Indies in the series, how are you feeling about your success?
very pleased with my performance, seeing that the pitches weren't the easiest to bowl on, and then coming here to Grenada where I had a little more assistance and was able to get wickets at regular intervals. Putting in a good effort for the team is a good feeling for me.
Did you have to adjust anything in terms of length or line given the different nature of the surface?
I think this pitch, being fuller is not as good as the other pitches because it's easier to score when the ball is fuller, even though it's swinging. So I think bowling into the pitch is the plan for this wicket.
Thank you very much for your time, Jaden.
Those interviews done by Ian Bishop, and he's another real good youngster, just 20 years of age, and I think the discipline in the bowling has been a signal of clearer thinking in West Indies cricket in general, and players being able to adapt to the questions asked of them by coaching staff. Fascinating actually to watch their revival during this match.
96 not out, the lead's 89 for the West Indies. Overton in, gives himself some room again, and he's gone down through long, on for 4 more. He runs down the wicket with his arms in the air, roaring his delight. A maiden Test 100, a scream of pleasure, almost disbelief. What a fabulous, fabulous innings. And he looks like he's briefly overcome with emotion.
What a job he has done for his team, and what a job he has done for himself. And honestly, that celebration, it does make you very, very happy for the young batsman wicketkeeper. Congratulations, Joshua Da Silva.
Well, players are on the way to the middle. We've just been talking about South Africa's fabulous win against India in the Women's World Cup, and the fact that West Indies qualified, and Neil Manthorpe was telling me about the camera that was in the West Indies team room and the joy of the news that result meant that they qualified for a semi-final against Australia. There'll be some pretty pleased England cricketers too, because it also meant that England qualified for a semi-final against South Africa. So that's been a heck of a tournament, that Women's World Cup. Great fun to watch, and so many tight games.
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't think I've ever seen a World Cup with this many tight games. When you needed 3 to win off 2 balls, and you have your best player caught it long on, and then it's a no ball. The whole thing was it was bizarre, and it was a no. I don't think I've ever seen a tighter no ball in my life as well.
Oh, right.
It was so tense that end of that game.
Okay, thanks, Jared. We're ready to get going here. Mike Atherton's waiting for us over there in Grenada, and Neil Manthorpe's microphone ready here.
Thank you very much indeed, Mark Nicholas. Michael, I have in my bookshelf a copy of the book that you wrote on punditry and gambling, and it's fascinating. I don't do it myself, but I am interested in it, and Jared Kimber's been scouring betting sites to see what odds you could get on England. With Jack Leach and Saqib Mahmood already having added 90 in the first innings for the 10th wicket, and Chris Wokes has got a Test 100. The best he could find is 64 to 1. Would you spare a tenner?
Oh, I think we're in Headingley 81 territory. You'd need at least 500 to 1.
That's exactly the conclusion that we came to. Jaden Seals, first ball of the morning, down the leg side. A flick and a miss from Chris Wokes, and the first delivery has been bowled. We had a little sweepstake to see how many balls we thought we would have in the day before the match was concluded. Our bets varied between 35 and 140. How long do you think it might go?
I was going around halfway between those marks, something around about the 60 or 70 balls mark. An hour and 10, an hour and 20 minutes should do it. But who knows? As you say, Chris Wokes with a Test 100, runs for Leach and Mahmood in the first innings, but one thing's for sure, they're going to have to play a hell of a lot better than they did yesterday. That was a really grisly day for England, both in the ball and in the field, when they were very passive in the morning, and then when the batsmen failed really to withstand any pressure in the afternoon. There's just a delay. Somebody's moving behind the bowler's arm, and the umpire has had to wander off to the far end as a rather weary Jerusalem is belted out by the small numbers of Barmy army that are here.
Is it small? Is there a very noticeably small turnout?
It's not bad, given that the match could last about 10 minutes. It's not bad, to be honest. England supporters are always exceptionally loyal, aren't they? And there's one or two locals in the ground as well.
And there you go, Jerusalem completed. Here's Seals around the wicket, bowls another one down the leg side. Chris Woakes shaping to pull, and then bails out of it. Is Jayden Seals just struggling with an injury? He looks a bit uncomfortable.
We'll see. He's walking back to his mark now, and he looks okay just to the naked eye. Keep an eye on him as he's running in. They've set a field for short pitch bowling. Woakes, of course, is suspect to the short ball, so there's a short leg holder at leg gully. 3 men out on the leg side. There's going to be a lot of short stuff coming.
Here's Jayden Seals once again. The 20-year-old has had a very fine series around the wicket. Bowls and short and pulled by Woakes down towards long leg, as you say. 3 men out on the boundary. That's Kyle Mayers who does the tidying up. It seems I would understand going to this strategy maybe 20 minutes in to kick off with the short balls strategy to Woakes is interesting.
Yeah, they've fallen between two extremes, or they've gone to two extremes with Woakes. In Antigua, they basically didn't bowl him a bouncer for the first 40 minutes of his innings. Here they've gone straight to. I suspect somewhere in between is probably the right call. Enough balls, threatening the stumps because we're getting some low bounce, but also just to keep him honest with the occasional bouncer as well.
I'll get you to talk us through the strategy to Jack Leach as well. There's a couple of close catches also on the leg side, leg gully as well. Seals in over the wicket to the left-hander, and that's left alone and by Jack Leach. So where's Jack Leach susceptible? How are they trying to get him out?
He's got the best technique of any England batsman. He's the man. Well, they're going for a similar field and a similar ploy. There's a short leg, a man right under his nose on the offside. John Campbell's at leg gully and Jason Holder at slip. So similarly, there'll be a lot of short stuff coming to Leach as well.
Here's Seals once again, first over of the morning. We've had the first run to Chris Woakes. He's double figures on 10. Leach leaves alone outside the off stump, and there's no run. I know you. A part of you means that what you said about Jack Leach and his technique, and I read an interesting article, may have been before the Test match, or perhaps it was after the first innings partnership of 90 with Saqib Mahmood, in which it was pointed out just how hard Leach has worked on his batting in the last couple of years, working particularly hard with Marcus Trescothick on the basis that he felt that he might have gained selection had his perception not existed that his batting was so weak in a couple of tests. Here is Seals again. Leach leaves alone, sways out of the way of it, and there's no run. I mean, I suppose he would have to be considered, if it was true that he might have played a few more test matches had he been regarded as a better tail ender. He probably does he have it within him to be considered as a number 8?
Well, I was only seriously joking, if you like, about his technique. Just his method. He's got a pretty good technique, actually. He's clearly limited in batting ability and stroke making ability, but if you just look at the fundamentals of his game and his defence, he's actually pretty sound. As you say, he does a lot of work with Marcus Trescothick. They obviously know each other well from their time at Somerset together and down in Taunton. He uses a Millichampen Hall, which I seem to remember was Trez's first bat maker, and they have a little factory just behind the pavilion down in Taunton. And he puts a lot of work in, and he's got a pretty sound defensive technique, so he's quite hard to dislodge. As you say, tail enders these days have to be able to bat. Seen the value of it in this game for sure.
We certainly have. Man of the moment, Kyle Mayers, is going to bowl the second over of the morning, and he's in full wide outside the off stump, and that's left alone by Chris Woakes. The comparisons, I know that you would have seen them, and you may have made a few yourself. I haven't actually found the time this morning, there's a lot happening, to read your report from yesterday, but the comparisons with the classic English medium pacer who bowls at 70 miles an hour and picks up wickets for fun. Kyle Mayers has been compared to a few of them, and that's pushed away square of the wicket on the offside by Chris Wokes, and a rare couple of runs conceded by Kyle Mayers, who's been likened to the one and only Darren Stevens. It probably brought a smile to your face. Others?
Well, yeah, he's very different tactics here to Wokes, because of course he's not quick enough to bowl the short stuff, so he's got just an orthodox field for the kind of gentle medium pace that he bowls. I mean, his figures were Curtly Ambrose-like yesterday, weren't they, at one stage, 5 for 9, but he's anything but Ambrose in pace and hostility. He's just gentle, 75 maybe miles an hour at tops, but he wobbles it about, and he has a knack of getting good players out, and he certainly had a very good all-round match here.
He might as well be Curtly Ambrose with 2 slips and a gully for Jack Leach. Here he is, Kyle Mayers, and that's back of a length, and Leach plays it nicely off the back foot defensively up towards mid-off. Good afternoon, Jared Kimber.
Do you want my favourite stat on Kyle Mayers?
Yeah, I love them all. I just think they're brilliant.
11 tests in, he has made 664 runs so far. Of those 664 runs, 37.7% of them came in his first test. And he has 20 wickets. 7 wickets of those are in this match. So he has 35% of his wickets.
Punched off the back foot by Leach. Well, that's a good shot, and he'll get at least a couple. So he's got a good, sound, solid defensive technique, as you heard Michael Atherton saying, limited in his scoring options, but that is a good, decent punch for a couple.
So 35% of his wickets in this match. So 37% of his runs in one game and 35% of his wickets in another game. Someone on Twitter said he's like Garfield Sobers in installments.
He does exactly right. He does that. 210 not out on debut in the 4th innings of a Test match is extraordinary. Defensive once more from Jack Leach, pushes it straight back to Kyle Mayers. 109 for 8. Is there any? We were speaking to Sandra Di Michele from 888 Sport, and he was giving us their odds, and he was talking about England at least. Restoring a little bit of dignity and pride. I don't know what they would have to do in order to do that today. I mean, after the debacle of yesterday, but I don't even know whether that's whether it's possible. There's a change in the field now for Jack Leach. They put a man on the drive at short, wideish mid-off. So just the 1 slip and a gully now. 3 on the offside, 2 on the onside, and the catcher on the drive. Mayers in, bowls. Leach does drive. Full length delivery. And there's no run. England lead by 16. 109 for 8.
I think it is important, though, even if you do lose a Test match, and there's every likelihood England will lose this Test match, it is important how you go down. I mean, we can all recall the end of the Ashes in Hobart, and that's that image of Ollie Robinson backing away off the cut strip, basically in abject surrender. That is the image that will stand for that series forevermore. Whenever you hear about the Ashes 2022, 21-22, that image is the one that you will see. So even if you're going to lose a game, you can go down with a good deal of spirit and dignity and pride, for sure.
109 for 8, England. They resumed on 103 for 8. Here is Jayden Seales continuing. Short pitched delivery, as we expect, to Chris Wokes, who plays a decent pull shot down towards long leg, and it's fielded by Kyle Mayers. It was ghastly, wasn't it, in Hobart? I mean, and, you know, part of you is going, well, it's not Ollie Robinson's fault. He's not there to bat. But it was just, as you said, that's the abiding final image.
Without doubt. And, you know, see a tail ender backing away off the cut strip is a terrible image for any team, because tail end runs and resistance shows the spirit of a team, for sure.
Seales in. Oh, Leach gets a short one and fends it off. It was in the air for a little while, but falls well short of gully. One thing that would be an absolute dead cert to bet on is Jack Leach not backing away and Ollie Robinsoning himself.
Absolutely, and that's the kind of cricketer he is. You can criticise his perhaps lack of, I don't know, imagination with the ball or whatever. What you can't criticise with Leach is the fact that he really grabs every inch of ability that he's got and makes the most of it.
Leg gully, an orthodox gully, short leg and deepish silly point. 4 men around as Seals bowls another bouncer, and Leach watches it carefully, sways out of the way, although he didn't need to sway. It was pretty wide of the off stump. Those 4 men around the bat are quite deep, aren't they? They're all forming almost a perfect square around Leach.
They are, although they all Roach came in then from mid-off, Holder came in from gully. I don't know whether they were looking at the pitch or having a little word with Jack Leach, but he was suddenly surrounded by West Indian fielders.
Leach has 3, Chris Woakes has 14. England are 110 for 8. Here is Seals once again, bouncer, and flies over the shoulder of Leach into the gloves of Joshua De Silva. Did you happen to hear whether Joshua De Silva he's got that quite badly damaged finger, hasn't he? Matt Pryor was speculating that when he went off, he was out for about 20-25 minutes. He might have had what did you call it again, Matt? A block injection, which apparently can last quite a long period of time. It's obviously just to mask the pain of a potential fracture. Any update on his injury?
Well, he's out there at the moment, obviously, and we haven't heard that he's had an injection.
Here's Seals again. Round the wicket falls. Oh, that's chipped up into the air, and it falls short of the field to Kemar Roach at mid-off. No run.
Yeah, I know the injection that Matt's talking about. I remember a test match in Melbourne in 1995 when Shane Warne got a hat-trick and Alec broke his finger and had one of those ring block injections into his busted index finger in the second innings and went out to bat. So as you say, it can mask the pain. It doesn't heal the fracture, but it just means you can kind of get on with it without that searing pain.
Horrible thought. Counterintuitive as well, isn't it? Here's Seals again. Bowles goes full this time, and Leach props forward and nudges it defensively up to Kemar Roach at mid-off. He's remains on 3, does Jack Leach. Chris Woakes has 14, 110 for 8. The West Indies have had a couple of peculiar moments in this match, and they've suddenly, in a position of great strength, have suddenly used a couple of part-time bowlers, and they almost willfully sort of lowered the intensity. It's been peculiar. I don't expect we'll see that this morning, but maybe they will if these two last half an hour.
Well, what we've seen in the game, and this has usually been towards the end of each day's play, is that as the ball has softened, the pitch has kind of gone to sleep a little bit, and if you show enough watchfulness and care in your batting, you can stay in. Of course, the ball is 56 overs old here now, 53 at the start of play, and therefore, you know, we're in that perfect sweet spot where the tail enders have managed to stick around and score some runs in the match so far.
Kyle Mayers to bowl his second over, the 4th of the morning. England leading by 17 now. Mayers up to the crease, bowls, and Woakes drives very sweetly through the offside. That's a good looking cover drive. He had to reach for it, and he reached for it very successfully, and it's gone for 4 through deep extra cover, wide, long off. That's a good looking shot from Chris Woakes.
Sure was. That's his shot, really. If you said what's Woakes' signature shot, it's that attractive cover drive, and that's why teams tend to go to a short pitch ploy against Woakes, because they don't want to see him get that big front foot down the pitch, and he's a bit more suspect to the short ball. Mayers hasn't really got the pace to do that, so he's going to stick to the plan. There's a slight adjustment to the field. Jermaine Blackwood, who went after that ball like an absolute gazelle, he's just gone to deep cover now, and there are a couple of catches on the offside for the drive.
He is very athletic, Jermaine Blackwood, and it was a great effort from him, so no lack of enthusiasm as you would expect from the West Indies. Lead of 21, works up to 18. Here's Mayers, and that's blocked solidly by Works. And there's no run. Kyle Mayers began this morning with overnight figures of 13 overs, 7 maidens, 5 for 9, which at the time was the second cheapest fifer ever against England, but his figures have exploded. He's doubled the number of runs conceded. 9 to 18 now. Mayer's in again, full and wide outside the off stump. It was interesting. Jade Dernbach yesterday was talking about Mayers being the perfect pace for this pitch.
Possibly. He certainly had a lot of success. I don't know how far you can put that down to him, the pitch or the batting or a combination of all three, but he's not the only one to have taken cheap wickets against England of late. Think of Scott Boland and Axar Patel, so he ain't on his own.
Mayers once again up to the crease, and Works comes forward and prods it out towards cover, and there's no run. What were Boland's figures again? 6 for 7, wasn't it?
Well, I kept embarrassing myself. I was doing a bit of radio over there in the Ashes, and every time he came on, I said, well, his average has got to go down. One thing's for certain, his average is going to go up, his bowling average. And he kept going down and down and down. It's unbelievable.
Jared Kimber will tell us at the end of the over what Scott Boland's test average is at the moment. Mayer's in again, and forward comes Wokes, playing defensively up towards mid-off. No run.
We were having a running battle to see whether he could keep it below the legendary bowling average of Father Marriott, who played one game for England, took 11 wickets, I think, at some ridiculous average of about 7. Scotty Boland was challenging that.
Last ball of the 4th over of the morning. Kyle Mayers, 5 for 18 currently. Forward comes Works to the last ball of the over, and pushes it up towards mid-off. So, first 20 minutes safely negotiated by England. 114 for 8. Here's Jared Kimber with that statistical nugget, and then it'll be Mark Nicholas.
The greatest bowling average in the world, minimum 15 wickets. Scott Boland, 9.55, just behind George Lohmann's 10.75. On the other side of George Lohmann is Akshar Patel at 12.43. And then, all the way down to Kyle Jamieson, who's letting the team down at the moment. He's got to get him on some more green tops. He's only at 18.72, really letting that inflate.
There are 2 Australians with quirky averages, aren't there? There's a batsman too. You must know who that is.
Adam Voges.
Yeah.
Second greatest batter in the history of cricket.
He's just behind Bradman. Well, not just, he's behind Bradman.
I got a quiz question for you both.
Go on then.
Highest test average of all time is an Australian.
Well, you're obviously allowing it to be 1 match or 2 matches or something like that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's have Alzari Joseph in the meantime to Jack Leach. He bangs that into the middle of the pitch, and Leach sways beautifully. Watches the ball all the time, does Jack Leach, which is a clever trick when you're batting. Right,
this is
batting
batting
all time. So there's someone obviously better than Bradman.
Well, it's a very moving tale. One young lad called Norman Calloway, who got a double 100 in one first-class game. Sorry, not a test game, first-class average, and went off to war and died on the Western Front. 217, I think.
Leach is ready now and plays very straight. Full ball, and he plays it from the crease, hits it back to Joseph and holds his body shape as if to sort of prove it to the bowler. This is a hard man to get out. That's sort of what he's saying. He got quite a big movement across his stumps, back and across. Not unlike the way they used to move in the days of playing on uncovered pitches, where you very rarely lunged forward because the ball popped at you and you'd be meeting it, and the 2 forces of energy were not a good mixture for surviving. Here's Joseph again. So that's left alone outside off stump. So you waited on the back foot for the ball on those wet pitches, but you don't see that many now. More triggers probably. There's the little press forward with the front foot than that back and across move.
Yeah, a combination of factors. The uncovered pitches that you mentioned, helmets and protection, mean that batsmen tend to come at the bowler a bit more. They're the aggressor now, whereas pre-helmets it was the other way round, and bowlers were on the on the charge, and batsmen a little bit back and across.
Joseph again, and again dead straight back, this time right on the back foot and about chest height. Leach looking impenetrable. Yeah, Tony Greig, we were talking about yesterday, and I was explaining how he believed that a tall man had to stand upright with his bat up at stump height and then get his weight all transferred forward into the ball. And he said, of course, once helmets came, that was A, a whole lot easier, but B, it suddenly made more sense, because you took a lot of the fear out of it, and you thought, yeah, this is the way to bat as a tall man left alone by Leach outside off stump. And he's looked in no trouble this morning at all. I mean, it's looked so easy batting this morning for them both, in fact.
Yeah, that pitch is flat, ball is old. Just going back to the helmets, I think that's been the biggest change in cricket in the last 50 years. It's changed that balance between bat and ball absolutely fundamentally. Obviously saved a lot of people as well along the way.
Yeah.
For tail-enders like Jack Leach, it's a big thing.
Joseph bangs that in, and Leach actually tried to work that square on the leg side, but he missed it. It hit his thigh pad pretty hard and then just rolled out onto the pitch. So he survives. 114 for 8. England leading by 21, so they've extended their overnight lead by 11, thanks mainly to a couple of pleasant drives by Chris Wokes. What's the sort of chat, Athers? Presumably, the evenings back at the hotel, restaurants, it's all about England and Root and the future?
Yep, there's a lot of chat about that. Obviously, lots of things up in the air, lots of positions to be filled at the ECB, but a lot of speculation around Joe's position at the end of this game and moving forward. Don't think there's an expectation that he'll stand down if things go as we expect them to today, but
left alone outside off stump as Mayers comes in again at gentle-ish medium pace, 117 kilometres per hour, and easy for Stokes when it's that wide.
But I don't know that for certain. I mean, I felt, he should have gone at the end of the Ashes. I can't see that there's any justification for carrying on, but he was given full backing by Andrew Strauss, and I don't think he's going to give it away. We shall see.
Here's Mayers again. That is straight, and Wokes is forward and pushes it to mid-on, and it's extraordinary to watch this cricket because there's so little venom in Mayers' bowling today as against, it seemed, an almost explosive threat yesterday. I heard you liken him to, or liken his figures, not him I should say, liken his figures to Curtly Ambrose. But today it really is Dobber stuff. Mayers again, and again an easy forward defence by Chris Wokes. Jarrah's just going to come in a second.
Athers was just talking about the helmets and how they've changed things for tail-enders. I just had a look from 1970 until 1979, which is the period where we started bouncing tail-enders, where they needed helmets. Tail-enders averaged 12.42. In the 42 years since, the final three have also averaged 12.42. So I think the real difference isn't the average, it's in how many balls per innings they manage to face now.
They soak up, Mayers now. And that's another excellent forward defensive, but really Wokes would say to himself, if I can't play this, I can't bat, and that in no way diminishes Mayers' performance, which yesterday was quite startling, but it does show that it's a flat old pitch and that really England shouldn't be in this horrendous situation, leading by 21 with only 2 wickets in hand. This is average fare. Mayers again, and that's wide of our stump and left alone. No ball has done anything this morning, and the pitch hasn't done anything. There's been no uneven bounce. It's difficult to judge uneven pace because there isn't much pace, but even Joshua Da Silva behind the stumps with his injured finger has had no trouble getting his hand into the right place to take the ball because he's had so much time to establish the place to put him. Mayers again, That's also wide of off stump, and it could be at the end of that over, with England still 114 for 8 here on TalkSport 2 and incidentally on YouTube, that Craig Brathwaite gets him out of the attack now and gets Kemar Roach into the attack. So yes, that's right, positions to fill and route the subject. So your instinct is that A, he won't, and B, perhaps he shouldn't. It's better to get home and chat to the family and chat to the powers that be and make a considered decision rather than an emotional one.
Well, there are two questions there. One, my instinct is that he won't, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But as I said, I thought he should have gone at the end of the Ashes. So, yeah.
No, sure, and I absolutely hear you, and lots of us would have agreed with you then, and I just wondered if you think he should go now, or given the sort of re-anointment, if you like, by Andrew Strauss, whether he should hang in there for the English summer. I just wonder what you now thought on that, given Strauss's support for him.
Well, I think that's what he'll do. I just, having been in that situation, know that there comes a point where you realise the game is up.
Yeah, but Athers, watching his face as he left the field yesterday when he was out caught in the slips, I thought that was the face of resignation to a number of things, not least the job.
Yeah, I agree. And then there was a moment when Ben Foakes was run out and the camera panned to Joe on the balcony. He had his head in his hands ever so briefly and then looked up to the big screen and realised he was on the big screen and kind of sat a bit more upright. But yeah, it was a telling image.
I'm yet to see any of that. There's the one wicket I haven't seen. I wasn't on commentary. I was next door, and I haven't seen the run out, and I haven't seen Root head in hands. It's a much quicker ball from Joseph that bounces and climbs actually, and was taken at head high by De Silva. Again, Leach left it alone. Joseph has switched to bowl round the wicket at him. I think with Leach you've got to keep doing that, changing your angle, because he's definitely settled into the rhythm of defence very well. I heard you talking earlier about his technique, and outside of Joe Root it probably is the tightest defensive technique amongst all the England players. And it's pretty simple, that's why it's harder to get out. If you add a strong mind to that, which he's clearly got, you should be hard to get out on a flat deck. And another same sort of thing, it's that ball didn't fly through at all. In fact, to show the uneven bounce, it was taken down at shin height by De Silva, but Leach also swaying back from it. The pavilion here, I don't know if it is it actually the pavilion? There are two buildings at either end, but this salmon pink structure, I haven't seen that colour at any other cricket ground. Beautiful pastel colours of all the shuttle houses on the... what's it called? Is it Centurion Hill or Sentry Hill? Or
Cemetery Hill.
Cemetery Hill, thank you. And that's a good shot by Leach, very good. Only get a single for it, but he played it really well. He played it down. It was one of those little whips off the hip, and he gets a single. He used the pace of the ball because of the angle coming across him and worked it down to long leg for a single. A simple piece of batting, but an efficient one. 115 for 8. Yes, that's right. It's a great place, isn't it, Grenada?
Oh, it's fabulous. It's such a scenic journey to the ground, and the ground itself very pretty, as you say, with that Cemetery Hill overlooking and all these chattel houses perched precariously and built into the hillside, and the Caribbean Sea is literally just
literally over it,
50 yards to the right.
Great. There's another stadium I've seen from the high shot, the drone or the crane shot. It looks like an athletic stadium. Joseph to Wokes, who chips it straight up in the air. Now what's it hit? He's been given out and he reviews it immediately, so he clearly hasn't hit it because he didn't walk in any direction other than 2, 3, 4 feet towards short leg, as if to say, I'm not going anywhere, the other way is out, I haven't hit that. So it's going to be reviewed.
Can you move on to front on, please? Yeah, definitely a deflection off the thigh pad. I'll need ultra edge to see if it also comes off the bat or the glove. Just waiting on ultra edge, Greg. ultra edge coming up. It's a flat line, it passes under the bat. Keep rolling through. Makes contact with the thigh pad. Keep rolling through all the way up. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. Yep. There's no spike. Ball is away from the glove. Okay, I'm satisfied. There's no bat involved. I'm ready to go back on field to Gregory. Gregory, I'm going to have to ask you to overturn your decision to not out. You're on screen now. Signal now.
Well, Gregory Brathwaite having to overturn his decision, and we've seen the umpires had to do that quite a lot in this series. Generally, I think the standard of world umpiring is remarkably high, and I suspect the confidence of the DRS has helped that, but it's been a difficult game for them. So Woakes was right, he didn't hit it, and we continue again with Joseph round the wicket. And Woakes is back right across to off stump and works that for a single behind square on the leg side, in between short leg and leg gully. Woakes there was almost Steve Smith-like in the way that he was right across his stumps and playing right on the back foot. In fact, he's so far back towards the stumps that it only needs half a step more, or the third of a step more, and he would connect with the stumps, I think. One of the reports the other day, how did they describe something like from school teacher to bearded bully, Woakes in a day when he started to take some wickets at last. That's full. Good attempt at that straight Yorker to trap Leach LBW, but it just goes down the leg side, so it's harmless, and Leach practices the stroke again. Cross that he missed the chance to score off an errant ball, and we now get a shot from television of the little marina where the glamorous sailing boats are moored, at least for the moment. Woakes has 19, Leach has 4, and England, well, the difference 21 between the two sides. Matt Pryor was, saying that it's all very well hammering Root all the time, but he hasn't got the cattle.
Oh, there's no question that you can change the captain. You're not going to cure all ills. This is not a good England side, and England are paying the price for having not taken first-class cricket seriously enough for a number of years. But that said, I'll take you back to yesterday morning in a minute, where this game was lost.
We've got Carl Mayers again. Bowls a straight full ball, a floater of a ball really, that is just dropped on by, literally he dropped his bat on the ball, did Woakes, and it went nowhere. There's quite a strong offside field and there's no run for it. The score's 116 for 8, England are 23 in front.
You can look back at moments in the game. Alzari Joseph, when he came in, West Indies were 127 for 7. He nicked his third ball through second slip. There was only one slip in place. Then the slips came in. I mean, there's lots of moments like that a captain can have an impact upon the game.
Yeah, well, as the guys in this room will tell you, that slip moment was the one where I lost the plot a bit.
and yesterday morning, Josh De Silva set the field back before he'd hardly played a shot. Now, I repeat, you change the captain, you're not going to cure all ills. This is a poor team. You're not going to transform that overnight. But when you've been doing the job for 5 years and 60-odd games, there comes a point where you have nothing more to offer.
Myers again dead straight, so too the batter Chris Woakes on the front foot, no run. I go back to Lords against India on that Monday morning when he set everybody back and they got away from England and went on, of course, to blowing them away with the ball in the afternoon as much as anything, simply because they handed the initiative over in the morning, and that changed the mindset of the two sides. That was the moment when, for me, Mayers bowls again, and actually that's a good line, and Woakes is sort of thinking of playing it and then tries not to, but it's too late, and it does hit the bat and just runs off into the gully for no run. I think that he's as you do, I know, you're an admirable man doing a damn difficult job and a fantastic player, but not everybody is suited to the captaincy, particularly over a long period of time. Mayers again. Woakes comes forward and plays a pretty simple little defensive shot, but 5 dot balls in a row. The cricket this morning has felt gentle. I thought the intensity from the West Indies yesterday, with bat in the morning, with ball in the afternoon, was in marked contrast to England, who in a way looked a little bit as if they were going through the motions. That might be a bit harsh, but they certainly weren't as intense about their cricket as West Indies were. Mayers bowls again, and Stokes blocks on the front foot again. The end of that over. Athers, thank you very much. Great to hear you. Who knows, the game may extend and we may get more of you. But great to chat and great to have you on board. See you soon, I hope. The lead is 23. The score is 116 for 8 on TalkSport 2. And we're going to hand over to Steve Harmison and Mark Butcher.
Beautiful paradise island that is Grenada. And England, well, they've got off to a steady start, added 13 runs in the first 35 minutes of play. Wokes 19, Leach 4. Leach defending bravely, stoutly, ducks underneath another short ball from Alzari Joseph from around the wicket. Chris Wokes has peeled off a couple of nice drives through extra cover off the bowling of the wrecker, that is Carl Mayers. And everything has been reasonably calm. We've had a DRS decision overturned. Gregory Brathwaite gave Chris Wokes out, caught at short leg. And when the ball had just bounced straight off his thigh pad, went between his arms, so I guess it was close to the gloves. But there was no contact. Wokes reviewed straight away, and that was the end of it. 116 for 8 then. And Joseph is in round the wicket to a crouching Jack Leach, who defends on the leg side. It's taken on the first bounce by the man at short leg, and again there's no run. Got a terrific defensive technique, Jack Leach, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. So's Chris Wokes when the ball's pitched up. Looks as though he's a proper batsman. Values, enjoys being out there, doesn't mind sort of wearing one, does Jack Leach. Michael Athett summed it up perfectly. He gets every ounce of the ability he's got out of himself, and he's got a great attitude for that.
He certainly has, as he's in again, back across his stumps, and then half forward to a pitched up delivery from Joseph, who went for the stumps and defended to mid-on again with the straightest of bats by Jack Leach. Yeah, I said exactly the same thing on the TV down there, is that he's not by any means the most talented player out there on show, but my goodness me, is he the grittiest and most determined. He works hard in his game and does the basics, particularly with the bat. He does the basics unbelievably well. Forward and back, straight back, high elbow, soft grip on that bottom hand, stares down the ball relentlessly. As Joseph is in once more around the wicket, goes for the Yorker, gets it in there, but Jack Leach is equal to it once again.
Yeah, well kept out. Good ball from Alzari Joseph. Yeah, as a bowler, you feel as though Jack Leach he makes you work hard to get him out. Some tail enders, you feel as though you can, a little bit of chin music, one in and around the rib cage as a fast bowler, and you slowly but surely get to see a little bit more of the stumps. But not with Jack. He's a brave lad who, his attitude's spot on, especially with the bat, and again he's proved in this game that he values his wicket.
Joseph in again, and it's pitched up once more, and Jack Leach defends. Bowler picks it up and is followed through. The West Indies, they've chirped away. They've kind of been at both England batters this morning. Carl Mayers doesn't seem to have the same control over the ball that he did yesterday. He made the comment that it felt like he had some sort of antenna in it. It was like it was a remote control ball, and he could just make it do whatever he wanted after he let it go. But there's been very little movement from him today. 61.5 overs bowled with this ball now, and it certainly seems to have gone soft, and all of the spite and menace has gone out of it as Joseph is in once again, and that's a short ball, and Jack Leach plays that absolutely magnificently. Just sways, drops his hand, sways out of the way, top half of the body. The ball passes over the top of the stumps, and that is the end of the 62nd over. 116 for 8. England lead by 23. You're listening to live coverage of the third Apex Test match between West Indies and England, live from Grenada here on TalkSport 2.
It's always going to be the question who comes out and bowls first up for the West Indies this morning, and the natural answer and the natural guy to do it would be Carl Mears. He's on a piece of string yesterday, hitting that crack about 8 metres from the stumps, and it didn't always get up. The other one bounced and was nipping back and caused England all sorts of problems. But we did a pitch report probably 2 hours ago, Butch, and everywhere you described on how to bat on this surface against someone like Carl Mears, Chris Woakes has done that. He's got himself forward.
Do you reckon he was watching?
I think he must have been watching. Yeah, he must have been watching. He must have been, because everything you said a right-hander needed to do, and you sort of explained it and described it perfectly well for an international left-hander, but you did it right-handed. But saying that, the way you described it as a right-hander, I think if you put a right-handed bat in your hand, you probably would have done it better than some of our right-handers in this team who have gone so far in this Test match. So, joking aside, I think Chris Woakes has listened to what you said. He's got forward and tried to smother any sort of indifference bounce, and so far so good.
Kemar Roach then replaces Carl Mears. Oh my goodness, what a catch! That is extraordinary. Kemar Roach has bowled a loosener really down the leg side, and Chris Woakes has just turned it off his legs and it flew off the middle of the bat. Jason Holder, stationed at leg slip, has just stuck out one of those periscopic arms, and the ball has gone straight into his right hand, and the West Indies have their breakthrough.
Well, how's your luck, Chris Woakes? Tough time with the ball, and now from batting so well in this series, and again, go back to how's your luck, Chris Woakes, because there's things gone against him on this trip, and unfortunately, 6'7", massive wingspan, has thrown out an arm when you feel as though you've got a good piece of leg glance on it. It would have been it would have flown to the boundary for 4, and Jason Holder's just chucked a mitt out and it stuck. Chris Woakes walking off the field, and I don't want to there's going to be a lot of negative things said, but this is the last time we see Chris Woakes walk off a field bat in hand for England overseas, because he hasn't bowled that well. He's batted beautifully well, and his attitude's been first class as ever, but there will undoubtedly be the typical root question, Broad Anderson question. I think the third question would be Chris Woakes' future of him overseas.
Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. His main task, his main job in the team was to lead the bowling attack, and that has not worked out. I'm just looking at the replay again from Jason Holder. It is an absolutely stunning catch. The only man on the field that could have caught it, really. It's down to his right as well. It wasn't sort of head or shoulder height. It wasn't an easy height for him to catch. He had to move down and almost backwards to his right, arm at full stretch, and he's got the wingspan of an albatross anyway, and it just went slap bang in the middle of that huge mitt. Kemar Roach celebrates. I mean, let's face it was a pie, and he's managed to break the partnership. West Indies do not care how it happens, but it was a piece of sheer brilliance from the former West Indies captain Jason Holder that sent back Chris Woakes. Well, hero, top scorer of England's first innings, Saqib Mahmood, has made his way out to the middle. He's got plenty of company, catches at short leg, silly point, gets up on the back foot, defends that one to the right of a diving short leg, and there is no run. And the atmosphere is just lifted again in the ground. It was getting a little soporific. It is unbelievably hot here in the mornings. Before we arrived at the ground, maybe 7:45, absolutely burning. And gradually sort of eases off as you get later on into the afternoon. We're unlikely to see later on in the afternoon here today, I would have thought, but you never know. Saqib Mahmood faces up to Kemar Roach, and it defends on the back foot and sort of angles the bat face a little, and it runs off in front of Gully, and Mahmood is off the mark. 117 for 9 now.
Well, heroes of the first innings are back in a familiar position, punching gloves, trying to convince each other that we've still got a chance, we've still got something to offer in this game. But you're right, Butch. What a catch that was. Seen it again from Jason Holder. There's no other man on the field. There's no other man in Grenada could have caught that. He is big, tall guy, tall man, very flexible. Another impressive character. Jason Holder had a bit of a brain fade with a bat in the first innings, but he's made up for that for sure, because you're right, Kemar Roach just nipped back, going down leg side. Chris Folkes would have been amazed as he turned round not to see that going for 4 and
middled it, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Straight off the middle of the bat.
Yeah, off the face, straight into the middle of Jason Holder's hands, and I think the surprise on Jason Holder's face said it all as well, that he actually not only reached it, he caught it.
Yeah, another magic moment here in Grenada. Kemar Roach will go around the wicket to the left-handed Leach. 2 slips in, big gap between them as Leach is forward and he clips it crisply off his toes to man stationed at square leg, and there's no run. Dug out some numbers this morning. I was kind of thinking about England collapses. I mean, we've had 101 for 8 this innings. We were
90 for 8
90 for 8 in the first, 114 for 9.
40, was it 40 for 50 for 5, 50 for 4, 50 for 5 in the first into the first test.
Yeah, I mean the collapses for England under the captaincy of Joe Root. Roach is in again. Jack Leach plays it off the back foot and it was in the air for an age, but the man diving forward at point, again it's Jason Holder. Or is it? No, it's not Jason Holder. Who's that at backward point?
Alzari Joseph.
Of course, Alzari Joseph has dived forward but not managed to take the catch. It was a back foot force from Jack Leach. The ball just seemed to stick in the wicket. It went aerially backward of point, seemed to hang in the air for an age, and Alzari diving forward could only catch it on the half volley. Roach is in again. Leach crouches across his crease. Roach goes for the stumps. Leach defends it back to him, and it's the end of a successful and dramatic over from Kemar Roach. 117 for 9. England lead by 24.
Yeah, we had a lot there in that over. A stunning catch. Alzari Joseph obviously thinking about his bowling. Jack Leach played some nice shots actually. He's timed one off his legs. Beautiful, and he's found the fielder, and he's took 2 balls off Kemar Roach off the off stump. Defended them nicely, and you're right, not only has the heat in the kitchen turned up, but just in the ground the noise has just got going again, and a lot more local than England supporters, which is great to see in Grenada, and they're going to likely see a famous West Indian victory in a series which I wouldn't say has been high in quality, but the players that have been on show, but it has been entertaining at times.
Yep, hard fought, and West Indies have just had that little bit more in them during the course of this test match. Bouncer flies over the head of Saqib Mahmood and is called a wide by Greg Brathwaite, also one for the over. I was going back to those collapses, so you've had the 2 in this game here, 1 in the first test match, first innings. And basically any time the ball moves laterally, there's the genuine risk that wickets are going to go down in a heap for England. Hobart, Melbourne. I kind of looked up some of the other ones that we've had under the captaincy of Joe Root. We've had 4 where England have lost 10 wickets in a session. So even the collapses in the Ashes and the collapses that we've seen here in this game are not the worst ones we've seen under Joe Root's captaincy.
No, and that's a frightening thing.
Joseph is in, and that's close, very, very close to the head of Saqib Mahmood, and the ball might have clipped something on its way through to Josh Da Silva, because Alzari Joseph just celebrated straight away. He went running off towards cover point as though that's it, that's the final wicket, but there was nothing from behind the stumps and nothing from anyone else. So umpire Joel Wilson has just come in from square leg to tell the 2 close infielders on the offside just to calm themselves down a little bit. It's a vicious bouncer, and actually very well played by Saqib Mahmood. Yeah, just clipped his arm guard.
Clipped his arm guard. Yeah, there's a bit of flack flying around here. Shamar Brooks, Kemar Bonner, either side of Bonner's on the leg side. Brooks on the offside, and they've got a lot to say for themselves. So England obviously throughout the series have had quite a bit to say for themselves as well. Ben Stokes the biggest culprit of that.
Over the wicket now to Alzarri Joseph, full, and Saqib Mahmood drives on the up, pings it at Jaden Seals at mid-off, and that is the end of that particular passage of play. It was a hell of a shot from Saqib. Another indication that some of the spice goes out of this pitch once the ball gets a bit older, because I'm not sure any of the top order would have got away with a shot like that in the early exchanges when the ball had a little bit more sheen and hardness to it. So Joseph is in again. Short leg slip, men back on the hook, and the ball has gone up in the air. Oh goodness me, it would have been caught probably by a second slip. Saqib had no idea what was going on there. He tried to fend the ball off towards the leg side, and somehow it ended up going through the slip cordon. He gets up the other end, and it's another run to England.
Better from Alzarri Joseph. This was over the wicket. He's bowled a lot this morning from around the wicket to the right-hander, and the bouncers, because he needs to go, it's really short. Batsmen see it early and they can take evasive action and get out of the way. This time he's gone over the wicket and he can get it into the ribcage of Saqib Mahmood, and that's where it's going to be more dangerous. He's round the wicket again to Jack Leach.
Yeah, switch round. Still plenty of company for Leach. It's another short ball. Leach is on the back foot, plays again that beautiful back foot defensive, textbook back foot defensive, and there is no run.
I think to go on, there's going to be a lot talked about Joe Root's captaincy. In my opinion, he needs to do it himself now. I think for his own good. It's not affecting his game because he's still scoring runs, but I just think for his own mental sanity, it's time to get out there. Unfortunately, as much as I really wanted them to carry on, I really wanted them to do it well, and
Joseph in, and again back foot defensive stroke from Leach, picked up at mid-on this time.
And I really wanted them to do well. I wanted them to come back after the Ashes, and you give them a group without Broad and Anderson, put that decision to side, and really put his stamp on the group. And there have been positive things on this trip. I know Marcus said last night, don't isolate this for what the trip's been. He says trip, yes, fine, because England have batted quite well on the trip, but what happened yesterday has been happening for a few years now.
Josephine once more, and Jack Leach takes the bottom hand off the bat in order to just keep his hand as high as he possibly can, defends it again off the back foot. It's the end of the over, 119 for 9, England lead by 26. They have one second innings wicket remaining. The Richards Botham Trophy is on the line, and we think so is the captaincy of Joe Root. I mean, and that's the point, isn't it, really? I listened to what Marcus had to say in his interviews last night, and I suppose that the problem with that is that you come out to a test match series to win it, right? And you get down to the last test match, and it's all on the line, and it's winner take all, and you get yourselves into a position whereby it's mano a mano, and you fold as Roach comes in. Short ball again, and Saqib Mahmood again attempts to play a sort of paddle hook shot, and somehow manages to keep it down enough to get it all the way out to fine leg and over the head of Jason Holder. So that took some skill over his head, and then bouncing before fine leg, and he picks up another single, and I think you could probably breathe a bit more of a sigh of relief that Jack Leach is now on strike, because Saqib has looked skittish, to say the least. And so you get down to a point where you've got two teams who are at the bottom of the World Test Match Championship, two teams who are kind of, as you rightly say, are sort of lacking a little bit in star quality, particularly in the batting lineup. Bowling lineups also, you could say, as well. And then, but when it came down to it, then it was a case of, okay, well, whose will is stronger, who's Roach is running away from us now, around the wicket to Jack Leach, and he's full ball. West Indies are appealing. West Indies appeal. Josh De Silva is making the T sign, saying you've got to review this, Joel Wilson's hand stays in his pocket, but we are going to have a review. Jack Leach is shaking his head.
Copy, Joe. Review for caught behind. Leslie to Mark, we have a player review for caught behind. The original decision is not out. I've already checked and established it's a fair delivery. Can you move on to front on, please? Front on coming up. And the ball is very close to the outside edge. I'll need ultra edge to confirm if there's an edge. Just waiting on ultra edge, Joe. Ultra edge coming up. Yep. There's a spike as
West
the ball
Indies
is resting next to
celebrate.
the bat. I'm ready to go back on field to Joel. Joel, I'm going to ask you to overturn your decision. You can give the batsman
we'll
out.
wait for the umpire to go through the protocol, but the facts of the matter are that the West Indies openers have sprinted off the field. The West Indies bowlers and fielders are celebrating right now, hugging one another, high fives. Josh De Silva gets a huge hug from pretty much everyone out there left on the park. Kemar Roach has done the trick, given the ball as second change man this morning, has picked up the 2 wickets from the Darbo end. The first slightly fortunate, you could say, of Chris Wokes, a brilliant catch from Jason Holder at leg slip, and then nothing wrong or fortunate about the second one. Jack Leach, whose defence had been absolutely superb, forced into playing at a delivery on the front foot just outside his off stump that was angling back in from Kemar Roach. It took the faintest of edges. Umpire Wilson's finger stayed in his pocket, but Joshua De Silva was utterly adamant that there'd been a scratch, and DRS proved that is the case. So all in all, as the West Indies leave to great fanfare from the local fans here in Grenada, West Indies will need just 28 runs to win the match and the series and be the first team to get their hands on the Richard Botham Trophy.
Kemar Roach has done it again to the left-hander. He's bowled so well to left-handers in this 3-match series. I think the setup of Lee's right at the very start of the series, the way he angles the ball in and he can move it in both directions. I was just surprised that he didn't bowl first up this morning. I know we talked about half an hour before play. Ian Bishop, a colleague of ours on TV, said, who would you go with? And I think you had to go with Myers after what he did yesterday, but I thought you had to go with Kemar Roach. He challenges you on the front foot, inside, outside edge. His ability to move the ball, his skill, not only his skill factor, but his experience as well. And he's came on, picked 2 wickets up at the end there. 2 for 10 off 9.2 overs, Kemar Roach. You had to go with Jaden Seals, 1 for 26, 5 for 18 off 17 overs. 5 for 18, I'll say it again, 17 overs. Kyle Myers. And the one thing that the West Indies did well, far superior than anything that England's been close to doing from a bowling department, was bowl straight, make the batsman play when the ball was at its newest, and then keep the pressure on as and when the day goes on. And that for me is the difference between these two sides. The bowling unit of the West Indies, even on the flat pitches of Antigua and Barbados, have been able to challenge, make batsmen play. Unfortunately, England haven't, wasted it far too many times. 28 runs is not a lot of runs, and it's a little bit of humiliation for England as they start to get ready to be outside in the heat. English fans that are in here, it's going to be a short session, and I think there'll be a huge amount of question marks on the players when they do walk off this field for the final time, on who actually takes the field the next time England play.
Yeah, but we will have all of the post-mortems, all of the questioning, all of the hand-wringing that always follows up a defeat for England on tour, or indeed at home, and there's been plenty of them of late. To chew over that and the denouement of this Test match and Test match series, I'll hand you back to Matt Pryor and Neil Manthorpe.
Thank you very much indeed, Mark Butcher and Steve Harmison. So, as you said, it will be a short day. 28 runs is the target. It's a pretty hopeless situation for England. But you know, it's like, I don't know whether you ever played chess, Matt. As a youngster, when I played chess, you realise that the game was up, but you still need to go through, keep moving your queen around until eventually you concede. So much to talk about, and in the same breath, there's kind of a feeling that let's just all take a deep breath and go away and reflect on the situation. I don't know where to start. But one thing, you were talking to Mark Nicholas in the build-up about Joe Root and the captaincy and replacing him with a new captain, and we always tend to look within the squad, within the group, and Ben Stokes' name comes forward. And Stuart Broad, I was talking on TalkSport a little while ago before the day's play started, and I advocated Stuart Broad as an interim measure for the summer, and then really think through. You're giving me that look. That
they're going to want to make that call pretty quickly, I think.
Okay, so what about somebody completely outside of the current system? A successful young county captain. Do you remember when Chris Cowdrey was appointed as England captain in 1988?
Okay, yeah,
Tom Abel. I don't know.
Sam Northeast. We just throwing names.
I tell you, the guy a lot of people respect as a very good county captain is Rory Burns.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
But we know with players at this level, you can't captain a team and not perform.
Will Rhodes?
No, manners.
I'm asking a question. I don't know. I'm not advocating at all.
Look, maybe it's too simplistic a view, but the first thing you have to do is pick the best 11 cricketers for England.
Yeah.
You have to be good enough to play international cricket.
We're in violent agreement on this.
At international level. You can't. I think more the question is, how on earth in England do we have one option as an England captain? How has that
exactly? Can the cupboard really be that big?
You can't tell me Joe Root has been kept on by the ECB because he deserved it. He absolutely didn't. He's been kept on because they don't have an alternative option.
It's a desperate situation. I can't think of many worse reasons to stick with a leader.
And going back to your Broad shout, they've got rid of him. So what, they're going to now go, sorry Broady, all is forgiven. You're opening the bowling and your captain, please, because we don't have anyone else.
Well, they did say they didn't get rid of Broad and Anderson.
They were very clever with what they said.
It's a bit like saying to your girlfriend, "You're not going to meet my parents," and then a week later, asking her to marry you. You've already slighted her pretty much in a massive way.
I don't know how well the analogy fits, but I like it.
And now you're asking for a far bigger thing. It doesn't make any sense to go to Broad at this point.
I also don't think, and I'm going to get all the abuse in the world on social media for sticking up for Joe Root and everything, but so be it. The ECB made a call. We're sticking by Joe Root. After the Ashes, I agree with everyone. He should have gone after the Ashes. I don't know how you can lose so badly in Australia. Everyone else, Strauss got the shotgun out. Everyone else is gone. But the captain stayed. That's a massive, massive call. But when they make that call, you're in then. You can't go away, lose this series, and then, well, look, I wouldn't put it past them, but it would be odd for me.
What about the defenders of Joe Root who say, can we just take a holistic view of this series and remember who was on the front foot in the first two test matches on two very, very flat? Yes, we reverted back to type and the same old disastrous mistakes and batting collapses returned in the third test, but for a while there, for a couple of tests, there were some positive signs, and it was England who were pushing for victory on the fifth day. So although this has been a dreadful test match with some horrible sessions in it, what about those who say, if we look at the tour as a whole, once everybody's taken a deep breath and slept on it 24 hours later and we've all calmed down, there were lots of small positives.
Don't say it. I don't think anything's going to happen in the next 48 hours. I do think there will be some time, because they've got time. Well, to me, when's the next test? June,
yeah.
So they've got time. Nothing needs to be decided tomorrow.
Could you give me your list of the small positives?
Welcome to our listeners on TalkSport.
Leach and Mahmood averaging 50 with the bat.
I mean, Leach's batting is probably a positive. I mean, I'll give you that.
Okay, the West Indies require just 28 runs for victory. England have been bowled out for 120. Just for the benefit of those of you who are joining us on TalkSport, they added 17 runs this morning in 11 overs, with Chris Woakes and Jack Leach, the men, dismissed. Woakes for 19 from 50 balls. He was caught at leg slip brilliantly by Jason Holder, and Jack Leach was caught behind by keeper Joshua Da Silva. Kemar Roach, the successful bowler on both occasions, and he finishes with figures of 2 for 10. Kyle Mayers, who had figures of 5 for 9 overnight, finished with 5 for 18. Chris Woakes it will be to bowl the first over, looking for a consolation wicket or two, but nothing, I'm afraid, will add any gloss to this result.
Sorry, man, it's just coming back to what we were talking about. Just had a message from someone. Vince.
James Vince.
Mark Nicholas is messaging you while you're on air.
No, it wasn't Mark Nicholas messaging me. James Vince. What happened to it? Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah.
And he's got a very good reputation down at Hampshire. Mark Nicholas is shouting at us from across the room. He's the best captain in England, apparently. James Vince, there's a shout. Is he good enough to bat in the top 4?
Can I just say how disappointed I am that it wasn't Brody who sent you a message going, I'm up for it. Could have been a great TalkSport exclusive.
He's on the golf course, mate.
Okay, this is a very, very interesting debate, and I'm going to let Maddie P and Mark Nicholas take it forward in a few minutes' time. But for the benefit of TalkSport listeners, maybe you're listening to the cricket for the first time. England are on the verge of losing this 3-test series. The West Indies, the hosts, require just 28 runs for victory, and we've not reached lunch on day 4. The first delivery from Woakes is a good one. If he bowled 100 more of those in the first 2 test matches. That's Craig Brathwaite's played and missed.
It's probably the best ball he's bowled all series. Standing delivery. Wobble seam, hits the seam, moves away. Unlucky not to catch the edge.
Jerusalem being pounded out by the Barmy Army supporters, not at full strength for what will be a short day. It'll only be one session. Here is Woakes once again, bowls to Brathwaite, who's up onto his toes to a back of the length delivery, turns it away down to Jack Leach at long leg, and the West Indies are underway, needing a modest 27 more runs for victory. The first 2 test matches in Antigua and Barbados were both drawn on very, very flat pitches, but the Spice Island of Grenada has delivered a pitch with a little bit of pepper in it, and England's batsmen, I'm afraid, have not been up to the task in either innings. They were 114 for 9 in the first innings before being rescued to some degree by a 10th wicket partnership of 90. Woakes in again round the wicket to John Campbell, a left-hander. That's pushed up towards mid-off, where Ben Stokes does the fielding. Well, they recovered, and do you know what? Here's a positive. Jared Kimber was suggesting that I wasn't actually suggesting there were positives. I was suggesting there were people who would say that there have been positives for the fact that England were on the front foot and pushing for victory on the 5th day of the first 2 test matches before they ended in a draw. Here's Woakes once again, bowls. Campbell tucks it off his hip out towards Dan Lawrence at mid-wicket, and there is no run.
West Indies have the lowest batting average away from home of any team in the last 5 years of Test cricket, and if you looked at their home batting average, they would be the 3rd worst batting average of any team travelling away from home. So they're so bad when they bat at home that they're basically in the same bracket as the teams when they bat away from home. I don't think being in a position where you have the chance to beat them in 2 tests and not doing it
clipped away by Campbell, behind square on the leg side, and that's another run knocked off. Target down to 26.
Is in any way a positive. In the top 45 run scorers of the last decade, West Indies have one player in that list. You should be, if you have a chance to win against the West Indies twice, you really should be winning one of those test matches. I cannot see that as a positive, I'm sorry.
He's just taken your positive and turned it into negative manners.
As I said, I wasn't advocating that there were. I just said there were people who will be doing that. That's a low full toss, clipped away out to square leg and fielded by Alex Lees. That wasn't a great way to finish the over from Chris Wokes, who's conceded 2 runs. Craig Brathwaite and John Campbell, the 2 openers, have a run apiece. And the West Indies target is just 28 runs. The party has begun at the National Cricket Stadium in Grenada, and the capital, beautiful little town that it is of St George's, will be partying later on this afternoon and this evening to celebrate. I won't call it a famous West Indian victory. I can't do that because although it has been a close tussle in the first 2 test matches, there's been a undeniable lack of great cricket. It hasn't been cricket of the highest quality, but it's been a tussle between 2 teams with limitations, and it is the West Indies who will prevail. 2 slips and a gully as Saqib Mahmood's been given the new ball, and he's up to the crease now. Bowls short, pulled away by Campbell. He's hit that very nicely, man out there on the hook, and it's all the way along the ground though, nicely controlled. And the West Indies pick up another run, move along to 3 without loss. So Matt Pryor's alongside me. I was advocating the possibility of Stuart Broad taking the captaincy reins on an interim basis. Is it fair to say that you have emphatically ruled that possibility out, Matt Pryor?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Names being, James Vince he's played at the top level. He knows what is required. He has
Can you get gremlins in your mind when you've seen some balls behaving strangely in the course of the game when you come to bat yourself?
Kilometres an hour. It looked a bit skiddier than that.
Still runs tomorrow. I mean, we can assume that's like
Joe Root it is then.
For cricket,
you'd leave it with Joe Root.
No, hold on. No, I'm not saying I'd leave it with Joe Root. I'm saying that after the ECB made the decision to stick by him, they can't get rid of him now, having lost the series. I think that was a big call, and they're saying, right, we're rebuilding the team. There's a longevity in that.
Here's Saqib Mahmood. There's a peel for a leg before wicket. Brathwaite hit it on the pad. It was heading towards leg stump and almost certainly past it. And there's a leg by, 1 more to the total, 4 without loss. So look, as we've said, the next test match isn't until June.
Sorry, Manners, they've reviewed that.
Not out.
They didn't do it on
I've already checked
camera.
the front foot and established it's a fair delivery. Can you move on to front on spin, please?
Clearly the television director wasn't expecting them to review it, was he?
I didn't even see the counter
front
on
on
the
coming
screen.
up, Greg. There doesn't appear to be any bat. I'll need Ultra Edge to confirm
tell
that.
Me they reviewed that on the basis
Ultra
that
Edge
they've got
coming up
3.
now.
And they
under the bat.
Might as well. Please don't
Flat
tell me
line.
that anybody thought that
There's
was
no
actually...
bat
they didn't.
involved.
Stokes
Can
ran
you
in
move
and
on to ball
sort of
tracking,
shrugged his
please?
shoulders. Root just had a go.
Ball tracking coming up. Pitching outside off. Impact outside. Thank you. I'm ready to go back on field to Gregory. Gregory, you can stay with your original not out decision. Your on screen signal now.
The actual impact was outside leg stump, so often maybe hits in front of middle or middle and leg, and Zeng seemed to be going on to miss leg stump. That was actually hit him on the pad outside leg stump. 4 without loss, just 24 required for victory now as Saqib Mahmood is in once again. That's good in swinger to the left-handed Campbell, nudges it up towards mid-on. If I was to push you, Matt, which I am doing, for some consolation positives, I'm not saying there have been any outrageous boxes ticked in emphatic fashion by England during this series, but if I was to ask you whether it's been 100% doom and gloom and everything's been bad, would you have anything to counter that with?
No, I'm in a bad mood with all of this. I don't think this is a time for consolation positives. I really don't. I think this is a time for a very honest debrief of where England cricket is at. And there are no, again, you can go to the Ashes and you can talk about COVID bubbles and the pressure under the players and everything else, like, which I completely understand and I get, etc., etc. You don't have those excuses here. This is an average West Indies team.
Shakib Mahmood, Campbell defends, no run.
And again, no disrespect to the West Indies, because I think, you've got to be slightly careful there. But they're 8th in the world. You're in the Caribbean. It's a fantastic place to play cricket. You haven't got 60,000 Australians screaming at you, sledging you. We haven't been able... Look at the basics of the game, the skill sets that are required to win test matches. Bowlers being able to put the ball in the right area. Okay, they've got the docile wicket. Okay, well, we need a spinner. Batters being able to score big runs.
Shakib Mahmood in again. Short, wide, cut by Campbell with a fair degree of disdain and anger. That was a flashing blade, the like of which he is well known in the Caribbean, and it's 4 runs. Really, really powerful strike. It was in the air for a little while and not a million miles away from Zach Crawley at backward point, but 4 runs. Campbell doubles the total. It moves on to 8 without loss.
Yeah, before this series, he spoke about resets and wanting to learn about the players and giving players the opportunity to lead, and that's good. Now they've learned. What are they going to now do about it? What changes are going to be made? Because there need to be changes. No doubt about it. But we've just been looking at the batting stats, because all we've spoken about is how flat these wickets are.
Here's Chris Wokes in once again. He's full and straight, then clipped away nicely by Craig Brathwaite through mid-wicket. Shakib Mahmood has the chase on from mid-on and overhauls it 10 yards before it reaches the rope. Double figures for the West Indies, 10 without loss.
Flat wickets against an honest West Indian bowling attack. No spinner. Kemar Roach is their leader. He's a good bowler. Root 289 runs, 48. Bairstow 226 runs, 45. The next is Lawrence, averaging 32.
Here's Wokes again, good delivery. Play and a miss from Craig Brathwaite. He was covering the line, and through it goes to Joshua De Silva.
Stokes 194 runs, 32. Crawley 184 runs, including 100, averaging 30. Lees 126 runs, averaging 21. Folks 96 runs, averaging 19 on flat, docile pitches. That, you can't say that's just not good enough.
Leg side again from Wokes, as he has been so often, uncharacteristically often in this series, and it's clipped away the easiest of runs for Craig Brathwaite, who moves on to 5, and the West Indies requiring just 28 for victory, a 12 without loss. And yet England scored 500s, didn't they? 2 from Joe Root.
West Indies averages, De Silva's averaging 97.5, that's with a not out of course. Brathwaite is averaging 81, Nkrumah Bonner's averaging 44.
Wokes again, full and wide, and left alone by Brathwaite with a flourish of the bat, 12 without loss.
And then you drop down to Blackwood is averaging 32 and Mayers is averaging... Mayers has only played the 1 game, hasn't he? It drops off a little bit after that with Holder and Campbell. But again...
But they are reflective of their career averages. Apart, obviously, Nkrumah Bonner is the only one with a career average over 40.
Yeah, and that's probably a little bit higher that it will end for him. It'll probably end in the 30s.
Here's Wokes once again, and this is pushed up towards mid-off, and there's no run. So Jack Leach is the leading wicket taker in the series. Without... Is this very hard to say, but he's alongside Kemar Roach and Jayden Seales. They've all taken 11 wickets. Alzari Joseph taken 10, but the work and the overs that Jack Leach had to go through to pick up those 11 wickets, but he just never looked likely to take 3 or 4 in a session. That's punched off the back foot for a single into the vacant cover region, and they trot through. 3 overs gone. West Indies needing 28 for victory, need another 15. They are 13 without loss. Just 3 overs gone. We're going to finish well before lunch on day 4, and probably to take us over the finish line, you'll be in the company of Mark Nicholas.
Thanks, Manners. On the subject of this series, Craig Brathwaite, much the leading scorer, 327. Joe Root's behind him with 289, even having had a difficult match here. And then Johnny Bairstow, and then Dan Lawrence, and then another West Indian, Joshua De Silva. It's good stroke, really good stroke by Brathwaite. It'll be worth 4, and it'll leave West Indies just 11 to get. I think what we've seen with West Indies is, the sum of the parts can be greater than the whole, and we talked a bit about before play about how well they've played, and certainly in our following on podcast, when we sort of run a little inquest into what's happened here, we'll discuss West Indies cricket, which should be buoyed, I think, by this victory. Brathwaite looks in good nick. He timed the pants off that, as they say. And now he slaps one through cover off the back foot. 4 more. So a leg stump half volley and a long hob outside off stump from Saqib Mahmood, both punished by Brathwaite. He hasn't had such luxuries to feed upon much in this series. He's had to work very hard for his runs, but these are cracking strokes.
They are fantastic strokes. The balls are there to hit, but you've got to hit them, and Brathwaite does exactly that. Times it beautifully. Full flourish of the bat. West Indies go to 21, but yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot to be said about this West Indian team and how they played their cricket.
Only 7 needed now. We're also live both on TalkSport and on TalkSport 2, so it's great to have you all with us. England are going down by some margin here, 10 wickets it'll be, I think, but West Indies have shown that maybe cricket, the long form of cricket anyway, in the Caribbean is not dead after all. Maybe there's life in it, maybe good leadership both from the very top with actually an Englishman in charge, Johnny Grave is CEO, and then Phil Simmons and Craig Brathwaite with the team. Maybe it's working, not quite the oracle, but it's working reasonably well, as Mahmood bowls quite a wide ball that Brathwaite couldn't help himself from temptation, and it was very wide, and he did well even to sort of crouch and try to reach it. Anyway, he missed it. He's got 14, Campbell's got 6. A very satisfied West Indian team sit on their balcony soaking it up. These moments before a victory, when that victory has become inevitable, are very special for a team, because all the stress of playing in a test match seems to ease out of you, and your body gets softer and easier, and your mind begins to enjoy it a bit, and that keeps very low, and he tries to cut it, does Brathwaite, but it goes under his back. And the other point is that once your mind's freed up, you can actually enjoy it. So much of the enjoyment of sport is reflected joy after the event. It's very hard during the event to actually get to grips with the fact that this has been fun.
Well, yeah, because more often than not, it's actually just quite painful. The physical exertion, mental exertion, to get to that point.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean, the relief that you feel when it's over and you've won it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brathwaite on strike, and this one he does reach, because they've all been quite wide, and he just hits it into the ground, and the cover field of Jack Leach does the rest. So 21 for no wicket. TalkSport 2, as the glorious Caribbean shines rather brighter than England's cricket. Sparkling seas, wonderful vistas wherever you turn. Brathwaite on 14, and West Indies now need 7 to win the test match and of course take the series. England possibly marginally ahead in the previous 2 games. I'd say they were in Barbados. I'd say in Antigua maybe West Indies hung on a little more securely. I think in Antigua they really did feel like there was a chance. In Barbados they really did feel like there was a chance of England winning. Antigua it felt more a distant hope. Wokes round the wicket now at Campbell, and that slides down the leg side. It catches the pad, and Folkes throws himself and palms it away. So it's only a single. 6 needed. John Campbell, there's a talented man. We talked at length to Michael Atherton yesterday about him, a guy who Jared Kimber told us has a awful habit of getting out between 20 and 49. And that's exactly what he did in the first innings here, in the first innings in Antigua, in the second innings in Antigua. Sadly in Barbados he didn't reach 20 in either innings, but he can time a cricket ball beautifully. Brathwaite drives and uses his wrist to drive. What an unusual stroke, and what a good stroke. 4 runs through wide mid-off. Just a little flick of the wrists on the front foot to control the stroke, and he's racing West Indies to victory. 1 to tie the scores, 2 to win it.
All but over. Wokes with another full delivery. Yeah, it was a bit of an awkward shot. Cover drive that wasn't quite there, but used his wrists, used his hands, timed it beautifully. He's obviously a fantastic touch, has to be said.
He gave it a look afterwards, just say, oh, I like that. He kind of rolled his wrists on it, didn't he? Like a tennis forehand.
Yeah.
Down the line, a top spinner. That was down the line, all right. Beautifully placed. He waits now for Chris Wokes, who bangs it into the pitch, and he goes back and pushes it out to wide mid-off, where the fielding is safely done by Ben Stokes, who wings it to Ben Folkes. And the crowd are loving this. More locals have come in the last sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, and they're beginning to wave their flags and get the Zulus going, play the music and the steel pan, and just turn it into an event that they can all say they were a part of. The day we beat England here at St George's. Here's Wokes again. Oh, that's a punch drive that Stokes does well to stop. Excellent timing. He held his position, didn't follow through with that bat. He just punched it and didn't quite find the gap. The very satisfied coach Phil Simmons, who's sitting at the back of the West Indies viewing area, and he's been in a long career in the game. Phil Simmons played with some of the greats, didn't quite achieve the mighty heights himself, but he was a very dangerous ball striker and a sneaky quick medium pacer, if that makes sense. He hit the pitch so hard. Good man in cricket, really good man. Great supporter of charities, terrific guy. Wokes now running in, and a single for Brathwaite. That brings the scores level. Do they run back for 2? They do. Brathwaite lifts his right arm to the sky and waves his bat at his dressing room and at the home supporters. De Silva there punches the air on that balcony. Hips move in this direction and that in the crowd as the steel pan pounds it out. So too the master of the disco. The flags are waved now because West Indies have recorded a fine victory here in Grenada. They've beaten England by 10 wickets and they've taken the series by 1-0. The West Indies captain and probably the man of the series, Craig Brathwaite, is the man who hit the winning runs, and now he shakes the hand of all the England players, who are of course disconsolate. On the faces of 11 men in white is despair. On the faces of everybody else from the Caribbean is joy.
Yep, and what is a very, very sad and bleak day for England, it has to be said, is a very, very joyous and a happy day for West Indies. Craig Brathwaite, their captain, just watching their balcony, the joy, jumping, hugging, backslapping, and it's very, very well deserved. You look back to the first 2 test matches, there were times where England got on top. The West Indies had to be resilient, they had to fight hard, they had to bat long times, long periods, they had to be disciplined with the ball. And where their moment came in the 3rd test and final test, they took it, they grabbed it, and here they are.
I've just seen Carl Mayers coming down the steps. I'm thinking, if you're adjudicating the man of the match, his match figures are 7 for 31 on a flat deck, Having said that, it wasn't always a flat deck, and Josh De Silva got a fantastic unbeaten 100. Who's your MOM?
For me, it's the De Silva innings was the game that put West Indies in the strong position to go ahead and win it. Mayers, of course, has had a phenomenal game, and figures like that would normally, I'd imagine, put him in the box seat for the Man of Match award, but De Silva for me.
Yeah, he transcended the pitch, the conditions, and indeed everybody else's performance. Nobody else passed 50, so I'm with you completely on that. I think he has to get that award. It's been a splendid performance by him, and I think he is a great find and a thoroughly good human being, actually. I think in his attitude, you sense that from his interviews. Phil Simmons is now down the steps shaking the hands of all the England players, and he does so with a really genuine smile and a warmth of the handshake and a pat on the back of each of those England players. He knows that this game doesn't always go your way, and that's been the case with West Indies cricket at Test match level for a while now. They've underperformed, at least with the history behind them. They've underperformed. De Silva's now coming back with stumps. I think he's been over to the groundsman hut and grabbed them all, and he's going to hand them out.
Yeah, hopefully he hands them out. He's been greedy, otherwise he's taken 4. Usually just take the 1, but no, he's going to hand them out to his teammates.
Seals has got one. Let's see. And yes, he's saved one for Kyle Mayers. Well done. So Mayers, De Silva, Seals, and I think the other one might have been Campbell. I'm not absolutely sure, but it was Bonner apparently, and Kumar Bonner. This really is fantastic. I think Seals and De Silva and Bonner are great mates. I get that impression. Seen a lot of them together, enjoying their lives. Anyway, it really is a tremendous performance, this, by West Indies. Matt, actually, Matt, just hang on a second, because I'm just going to ask Jared, who knows the Caribbean so well, has worked out there in the CPL. A lot of people in the Caribbean have written off the longer form of the game, thinking that actually, if you look 20 years down the track, you might find West Indies don't play the long form at all, and they become a dedicated short form nation. But days and performances like these will at least lift spirit and maybe gain impetus.
I think that there was a feeling when Craig Brathwaite and Jason Holder came into the side that you had two people who believed in the history of West Indian cricket, and even in Holder's case, I think he had an IPL contract when he was very young. They were thinking, he was talking about it as someone who was saying, look, I love this form of the cricket. I love what West Indies have done. It actually means something to me to go out there and do something that my heroes had done before. And he's talked about that, the heroes, Bajan heroes and the West Indian heroes before. This is huge. This is also their first win, Mark, since the last win against England. They haven't been a successful side. For them to beat England is a very, very big thing for them. And listen to the crowd. As the series as West Indies plays better in this series, we saw more West Indian fans come out. That's what it's about. The West Indian fans are saying, we still love our team, but they're not winning. We're waiting for them to win. Wins like this are so important, I think.
Matt, there's a few cricketers there for them to develop. I think that, I reckon in Campbell, at the top of the order, they're going to have to do something about his concentration, but I think he can really play. I don't know where Shai Hope is these days. Shai Hope, I should say. Tell us about him. I'm surprised he hasn't been a part of this.
I think he averaged about 15 or 20 over a couple of year period after destroying England in Headingley a couple of years ago. We still know how talented he is. He's got beautiful timing, incredible balance at the crease. Nkrumah Bonner sort of came from nowhere. Again, very, very good patience. Him and Craig Brathwaite together, very hard to get past. We've seen with De Silva, there's certainly talent there. Their two best probably batting prospects are Nicholas Pooran and Shimron Hetmeyer, who are not in this setup at the moment. So there's definitely talent.
Not chosen?
Hetmeyer wasn't chosen because of fitness concerns. He's not been in great shape. Pooran will come into this team. He's told me on a couple of occasions he's desperate to play Test cricket, and I believe him from the look in his eyes.
So he's just not selected?
He's played 5 first-class games in his career because he had a falling out with West Indies cricket when he was quite young, and then recently he captained West Indies A, so they're bringing him back in slowly. He's only 26. But they can improve this team. Shannon Gabriel didn't play in this team either. Ask Matt what it's like to face Shannon Gabriel. He's an absolute monster of a bowler. Like, he's been a great bowler for them over the last 5 years as well. So this is not a full strength team of theirs by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, isn't that good news, Matt, to hear that West Indies cricket's really got something going?
Yeah, it is. It's so important. It's important for the game. I think the other thing that's great to see actually is the crowds the last couple of days in Grenada. You know, England, we always talk about, we have the best supporters in the world. The Barmy Army follow England around everywhere, every corner of the earth, wherever they go. But to see local support in the West Indies, steel drums going, it's fantastic, because it is so important that, you know, West Indian cricket not just survives but excels, and long may it continue. As I say, another name I'd add to that list as well is Jayden Seales.
Oh, yeah.
He's been fantastic, and you know, how old is he? 20 years old. 20 years old, and he's running big hearts, didn't step back from a battle, got stuck in, but his skills were great wrist position, swung the ball nicely, looked like he had good control for such a young man. So I'd certainly add him to the list of talent.
As the West Indies walk around the ground with a lap of honour and one well earned, I have to say there's a report on a conversation that television is showing between Danny, the media manager, and Joe Root, now joined by Paul Collingwood. And those conversations are going through the likely questions from the media and ways to go with answers that don't necessarily bring too much trauma to the event. But of course we kind of know that what's going to be directed at Root here. I also don't think this is putting my foot in it really, but I don't think that's a conversation with a man who's about to stand down. That would be my feeling, but maybe you don't agree, Jared.
That's not how I read it.
Okay,
I read it that Danny was preparing Joe for something. Now, it could just be what you said, but it could also be that Joe was saying to Danny, I'd like to leave now. But that's just reading it. It just looked like the way that Danny was, trying to make him relaxed and everything. I'm not sure that's what I would expect to see of a captain in this position.
He wouldn't be doing that now. He would have decided overnight. He wouldn't. He would have told them. He would have made a plan with them this morning or last night.
It's very possible. If that's the case, why are they having such a big conversation now? I don't know.
Right. Good question.
I would be shocked. Well, I think the reason they're having such a lengthy conversation is because this is a bad blow. This is a really significant blow for English cricket, for England, and for Joe Root, the captain, and for the whole team. And he is going to come under fire. There's no doubt about that, and I think he is well aware of it, and that's what he wants to prepare for. I would be shocked if Joe Root announced if he had made that call, if he announced it today, or even if he had made that call in the last evening. I think there is time. I think he would probably want to get home, have a conversation with his bubble, whatever you want to call it, family, close friends, agent, whoever it is that he relies on for support and honest feedback, and then he would make that call from there. So I'd be shocked if he announced anything today, if he was going to.
I'm completely with you from a tactical point of view, or from the way that he does things. I'd be surprised. That particular conversation, though, looked a little bit beyond, you're going to go out there and they're going to ask you this and this and this. But look, Danny Rubin is, I work with almost all the press officers in the world. He is by far one of the best press officers I've ever dealt with in cricket, and he'll be helping Joe through this. They've known each other for a long time. Danny's obviously from Yorkshire as well. And everything now over the next 2 weeks for Joe Root it's going to be quite intense, from the press conference in a couple of minutes all the way through to any decision he makes.
I'd go one further, probably all the way till June.
Yeah,
the
fair
next
point.
Test matches. There'll be question marks if he remains as captain, of course. He will. If he remains as captain, he will, of course, come under huge scrutiny, and the only way to overcome that is by winning. And of course, England's next Test match is in June. It's a long way away. Which is another reason why I'm not sure Joe would make a call so immediately.
You're right about Danny Rubin, by the way. He's the best press officer that I've come across in a frightening long time of doing this job. really is. Craig Brathwaite finishes with 341 runs, and Joe Root with 289. They're comfortably the top two in the series. And Brathwaite deserves a lot of credit. He's a very understated leader of West Indian cricketers, almost by definition, are quite hyper. There's a lot of energy in a West Indian cricketer, and the captaincy, that one of the things Clive Lloyd did so well was he kept a sort of cool head, didn't he, above the storm.
It's interesting when you look back. Darren Sammy was their big captain for a while. Darren Sammy's basically a politician. Jason Holder was their big captain after. Again, another politician. Corin Pollard's their white ball captain, a very emotional, passionate person, very, very intense. Brathwaite isn't really like any of those other three guys. He's a lot more relaxed. He's known from the age of 13 that basically all he wanted to do is knock the ball around the corner for one run. Very organised with his play. An old soul, I suppose, is maybe a way of putting it. I don't think he was ever really thought of as captaincy material because he's Bayesian and Jason Holder's of a similar age to him. So he's almost seen as a perfect vice captain. He's taken over the job because Holder struggled. I think he might be an ideal leader for them because he knows exactly what he wants to get out of cricket.
Just works with the West Indian temperament so well. I just like the look of the way he's handled some of the situations here. He looks to have his bowlers nicely in sync. They seem to understand him and vice versa. He's not histrionic. No, he's good. Great. We're watching all sorts of highlights now, and we're waiting for the interviews. That's what it's all about. The two captains, man of the series, I suppose, certainly man of the match. And it'll be very interesting to hear from Brathwaite and from Root and from whoever they choose. I would have thought Brathwaite would be man of the series and De Silva would be man of the match, and in this case Kyle Mayers would get an honourable mention, but he did get 7 for 31 in the game. They're showing us the pictures of that emotional moment when De Silva went to 100, dipped his head, hands on knees, and just couldn't really believe it. Suddenly burst into tears. It was just too much. And we see a lot of extravagant emotional responses to things in modern sport, to moments that don't necessarily warrant such extreme celebration. But that was a perfect example of somebody whose climb to the summit had been, full of graft, and in the end the graft paid off. Wonderful to watch. West Indies winning by 10 wickets. If you're just joining us, I think the presentation ceremony is about to happen, so I'll hold the fort for a minute and hear what the producer has to say. Yep, we're going to go across and join Ian Bishop.
Test match here in Grenada. Thank you so much as we come to the end of match and end of series, third test of the Apex Test Series presentation. First of all, we'd like to thank the official sponsors of the series who have made this possible. Apex, the title sponsor, Fan Craze, Betway, CG Insurance, MasterCard, Blue Waters, and of course the Grenada Tourism Authority. A couple of awards to be presented first of all, and that will be the Apex Player of the Match Award, who will be presented with his memento by Mr. Will Chignell, Apex ESG Chief Commercial Officer, to Joshua De Silva for his maiden Test Match 100. Josh, congratulations. It's been 24 hours almost since we spoke yesterday. Have the emotions settled and the mind?
Not at all. Not at all. It's still there, 100%. I dreamt of this, I don't know how long, ever since I started my career. I want to get one of these, and hopefully it's not the last one. Hopefully there's a lot more to come and a lot more hundreds to come as well.
As you think back to the way you play, just rehash for me once again what your mindset was batting with those gentlemen at the back end.
Trust them as much as I can. That's what I did, and all credit goes to them. They sticked with me all the way till the end, and Jaden did a fantastic job. Rochi, Alzari, all of them, I can't thank them enough. This is why, they are why I have this, is because of them. So I just did my part and tried my best.
I won't ask you about your behind the stumps commentary, because that has been a thing to behold. But in terms of glove work and keeping, was it challenging keeping on the surface or not?
It was quite challenging. I do hold myself to quite high standards, so I would give myself a poor glove work in this series. I had a lot of byes, which not like me. So for me, definitely I'll improve on that. But all in all, I think I had a decent series, but it was definitely a bit tough on this wicket.
Yeah, let's stay with the positive. And going forward, what goals have you set for yourself in terms of your improvement in your own personal game?
Definitely, it's Test cricket. Still need to get fitter, could always do better, could always improve in all aspects of the game. It's only just started, one of many hopefully, and I've got a taste, so hopefully it just keeps coming.
Fantastic to see your performance across this series. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Josh De Silva, the apex player of the match. Let me now ask the English captain, Joe Root, to come forward. Is Joe around anywhere? Joe? All right. I'm not sure that he's here yet, so we'll move on to the Player of the Series award, and that goes to the West Indies captain, Joe Root, who is not here. Craig Brathwaite will come up as the leader of this West Indies team, and he will be presented with his trophy by Mr. Chignell, the Apex ESG Chief Commercial Officer. Craig, 341 runs in the series. How do you feel about that achievement?
Well, I feel fantastic, and feel even better that the team has won. Obviously want to thank all the fans that came out here to the Grenada Stadium, but very, very pleasing.
What sort of technical modifications, if any, have you made coming into this, or adjustments?
Well, the main thing I was working on was my balance, and a lot of top hand work, and I've been pushing at this for like 2 years now. So now seeing some rewards from it, to be honest.
As you look around your team and the contributions of certain batsmen here, your thoughts?
I mean, it's been remarkable. I think from Bonner, leading the way, Antigua and Jason, coming to Barbados, we had Blackwood, we had Kimura playing a fighting out with a finger that was hurting. Jaden and De Silva, did yesterday. It's a total team effort. I mean, from Alzari yesterday evening, asking him to bowl some short balls, and putting in the effort. It's a total team effort. I must commend all 13 of the guys.
Let's not go too deeply into it. We'll get you back up here because England's captain has made his way here. So thank you for the moment, Craig Brathwaite, the apex player of the series. Joe, not the result you wanted, I'm sure. How do you feel about the way things have gone?
It's been a frustrating test match because for the first two games we played so much good stuff, and we showed a lot of fight in that first innings to get ourselves in a position where we were still in the game. And yesterday was a really frustrating day. It was an important day in the series, and we just didn't manage it as well as we could have, and that we've shown that we can do in the first two games. So. After a difficult winter, we showed a lot of promise in the first two games, and I think we have made some strides forward, but it is frustrating to here now. But credit to the West Indies, they played some brilliant cricket yesterday. An important day's cricket, they stood up and really took the series from us.
What were the challenges in calibrating, particularly the batting coming off of two, I suppose, batter-friendly pitches onto this one?
I just don't think we quite read the surface as well as we could have individually. I think, as I say, we found ourselves in a similar situation in the first Test match, first innings. We stood up to it really well, and we just didn't get to grips with it out here this week. And like I say, we have made some big strides in that department, but there's still a lot of learning that needs to be done, and that's not going to happen overnight. We're going to have to keep working hard, keep applying ourselves, and keep the attitude that we've had throughout the whole trip. I think that's been as good as I've seen it, and if we keep applying ourselves like that, we will start seeing improvement. And the most important thing is that we start making those improvements and those good strides into performances and wins. So yes, it's frustrating, but there's still some good things to be taken away from this.
Identify one or two of those plus points for me.
Well, I think one of the shining lights really is seeing how Jack Leach has performed throughout this series. I think he's been exceptional. A couple of the young batters coming in and showing a huge amount of promise as well. Guys like Dan Lawrence playing the way he has throughout this series. Two young debutants coming in, showing a lot of encouraging signs at the start of their journey, which is very exciting. and as well having to do a lot of the work on some very unresponsive wickets too. So I think we have learned a lot as a group and about where we're currently at as a team and where we need to keep improving. And the most important thing is that we keep that attitude that we've had. I think that's been exceptional. I think our skills and decision making let us down yesterday slightly. But if we keep approaching things as we have done, then it won't be long until we turn in those into performances.
Finally, I know the emotions haven't settled. You said coming out here that you wanted to lead this team. Do you still feel that strong urge that you have what it takes to do it?
Yeah, I think I've made it quite clear about how I feel about this team. I'm very passionate. I feel like I've got the support of the guys behind me to take the team forward, and that's not changed. That's not changed at all.
Joe, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for coming out here.
Cheers.
And all the best in the future.
Thank you. And can I also say thank you to all of our travelling support, as always. It's been great to have you here. We're so lucky to get the support that we do. And congratulations to the West Indies. Well played. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To England's captain, Joe Root. I'd now like to get the West Indies captain, Craig Brathwaite, back up here. And he will receive the presentation of the Richards Botham Trophy from Mr. Ricky Skerritt, the president of Cricket West Indies. Also Dwayne Gill, the president of the Grenada Cricket Association and director of Cricket West Indies, here as well. Gentlemen, the honours. Congratulations to the West Indies team led by Craig Brathwaite. The newly named Richards Botham Trophy. Right, let's get into all the surrounding things now in terms of the team itself and what inspired them to do as well as they did.
I think we had a camp, before the series, and we sat down and we decided this is one of our best series at home, and we got to fight hard. From the camp we put in a lot of work, 4 or 5 hours a day, 6 days in a week. I mean, from there it started, and it just carried through every game, someone else raising their hand and doing the job, whether it's in the field, with the ball or with the bat or spending time. The effort was remarkable.
You've had some guys like Jaden Seals, Alzarri Joseph, Joshua Da Silva. What's their growth been like?
Well, obviously they learn on the job, but to see how Joshua and Jaden with a bat, yesterday, it's like they were playing for a long period. I think these are guys that are willing to learn, and that's one thing. Alzarri as well. He's been even better, in this game in terms of economy rate, and it's something he's been working at, and the effort is there, But when you have guys like Kemar Roach and Jason Holder, leading the way, is great examples to follow.
What's next for this team? What's the drive? What's the desire? What's the goal?
I think we learned a lot from this series. Different periods where we saw we could do it. I will always use yesterday. It was really a remarkable day for us, and to show the fight, and the attitude we had from the get-go, from the warm-up. I think it's key to carry that forward. Obviously, next Test series potentially is in June, and it's just to keep building. We build a lot of blocks, in this series, and we got to continue. We can't take it for granted. It's easy, to be happy with a series win and relax, but I don't think we can relax. We got to go back, to our respective territories, put in some work. We have some first-class games, in May before the next Test series. So, guys got to stay hungry. I think staying hungry is really the key.
Enjoyed the Grenada?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The supporters here have been amazing. I just want to thank them on behalf of the West Indies team. They came out all 4 days, and they supported us, and it was amazing ground it is. Obviously the pitch offered something, and glad we came out on top. Obviously kudos to Joe and England. A remarkable series. The first 2 games going to day 5. I think that was a top series.
Congratulations. I'll send you over to join your teammates. Thank you very much to Cricket West Indies President. Congratulations to you, Craig, and to your team.
Okay, so now we know Joe Root wants to continue, which isn't what Mike Pryor had expected. I think probably it's not what any of us had expected, given what we saw yesterday. His emotions seemed to have overcome him yesterday. Worth reminding everybody, this is the first West Indies win at home since they beat England 2-1 in 2018-19, and England have only still won the single series in the Caribbean since 1967-8, when they won 3-0 in 2003-4. We focused actually on that with Steve Harmison the other day. Matt, that's whichever way you look at it, it's nice that the England captain still has the strength and desire, whether you agree with it or not, to come off the back of these incredibly difficult past few days and talk intelligently and feel that he has the passion and the desire to continue. That's no bad thing in itself.
Yeah, definitely, and he's quashed any of us talking more about does he want to carry on doing it. He's just told us he does, which is good. I'm sure the conversation will continue, of course, whether he is the right man and what the ECB will do, but Joe certainly wants the job.
Well, he's changed the conversation, though, from what does he want to do to, whether he should be there, which is an external conversation now. He said, I'm going to do this until the job is taken away from me. That's way better than the speculation and us trying to read his body language and, is his hand, his hands are on his face for this reason or that reason. So at the very least, I think that's quite an important one.